You left the house this morning. And somewhere between your front door closing and your car reaching the end of the driveway, something began happening inside your dog that you did not see. They paced. Then whined. Then barked. Then destroyed. And when you came home hours later to the chewed furniture, the scratched door frame, the neighbor's complaint, you called it bad behavior. It is not bad behavior. What is happening inside your dog every time you leave is a physiological stress response operating at the level of a panic attack. And the ways most owners respond to it, the long emotional goodbye, the reassurance, the punishment after the fact, the second dog purchase to fix it, make it measurably worse every single time. This video is the complete guide to understanding and genuinely fixing separation anxiety. Not managing it temporarily. Fixing it. There is a difference, and by the end of this video you will understand exactly what that difference requires. Before anything practical can help, one distinction needs to be understood. Because treating the wrong condition guarantees you will never fix the right one. Separation anxiety is distress triggered specifically by the absence of one particular person, usually the primary attachment figure in the household. A dog with true separation anxiety will show distress when that specific person leaves, even when other people or animals remain present. The trigger is not being alone. The trigger is the absence of the one specific individual their nervous system is organized around. Isolation distress is different. A dog with isolation distress is generally calm when anyone is present, a family member, a dog sitter, another dog, but panics when left completely alone. The trigger here is solitude itself, not the identity of who left. This distinction matters profoundly because the solutions diverge. A dog with isolation distress can often be significantly helped by providing company during absences. A dog with true separation anxiety will remain distressed even when company is provided, because the specific person their brain needs is still gone. Identifying which pattern applies to your dog is the essential first diagnostic step. Watch what happens when you leave versus when another household member leaves. Watch whether a dog sitter's presence changes anything. The pattern tells you which problem you are actually solving. Separation anxiety is not a training problem. It is a physiological stress response. Understanding this changes how you approach every part of the solution. When a dog with separation anxiety detects the signals that predict your departure, their sympathetic nervous system activates. Stress hormones flood the bloodstream. Heart rate increases. Respiration quickens. Muscle tension rises. This is the same cascade that occurs in a human experiencing a panic attack. Involuntary, not chosen, not manipulative, a biological response to perceived threat. The perceived threat in this case is abandonment. Dogs with separation anxiety have often developed what researchers call hyperattachment, an attachment pattern so completely organized around one person that the absence of that person registers not as mild discomfort but as a genuine survival-level threat. This is precisely why punishment after the fact is not merely ineffective, it is actively harmful. Returning home to destruction and responding with anger teaches the dog nothing useful about the behavior that happened hours earlier. What it does teach is that the return of the person they have been desperately waiting for now also brings threat and unpredictability. The punishment adds a second layer of anxiety on top of the first. The dog now has reason to fear both your departure and your return. Research has confirmed that punishment-based responses to separation anxiety do not reduce the frequency or intensity of the anxiety behaviors and are significantly associated with increased anxiety over time. The solution is never punishment. Third, the pre-departure cues, training your dog to panic before you leave. Here is the piece most owners have never considered, and it is happening every single morning before they reach the door. Pre-departure cues are the specific actions your dog has learned to associate with your imminent departure. Picking up your keys. Putting on your coat. Closing certain blinds. Putting on particular shoes. The sequence repeats every day with enough consistency that your dog's nervous system has learned to treat each element as a reliable predictor of the abandonment event. By the time you reach the door, your dog's stress response is already significantly elevated. The anxiety does not begin when you close the door. It begins when you pick up your keys, often 10 to 15 minutes before you actually leave. Research has found that dogs with separation anxiety show measurable physiological stress responses beginning during the pre-departure sequence, well before the owner has actually departed. The solution is pre-departure cue desensitization. Identify your 5 most consistent pre-departure cues. Then, for 2 weeks, perform each of them repeatedly at random times throughout the day without leaving. Pick up your keys while sitting on the sofa. Put on your shoes, walk to the kitchen, take them off. Put your jacket on, make a cup of tea, take it off. Move to the front door, stand there briefly, return to your chair. Repeat this enough. Researchers suggest a minimum of 20 to 30 random repetitions per cue per week, and the cue loses its predictive power. The dog cannot reliably predict departure from the cue alone because it now predicts a range of outcomes, most of which involve you remaining. When the cue loses its predictive power, the anxiety response it was triggering begins to diminish before departure even occurs. Fourth, why everything you currently do at the door makes it worse. The long goodbye feels kind. It is clinically counterproductive. Most owners with anxious dogs have developed elaborate departure rituals: extended petting, verbal reassurance, multiple goodbye cycles, a final extended cuddle at the door. This feels like compassion. It teaches the dog exactly the wrong lesson. Extended goodbyes do 2 things simultaneously. First, they keep the dog's nervous system at high activation at precisely the moment it needs to be as calm as possible. Every second of contact and reassurance maintains elevated arousal rather than allowing it to settle. Second, they communicate to the dog that departures are events significant enough to warrant significant emotional investment, which confirms the dog's sense that something worrying is happening. The departure protocol supported by research is the opposite. Avoid initiating contact for 15 to 20 minutes before you leave. No petting, no prolonged eye contact, no verbal interaction. When you leave, leave calmly and quietly without a goodbye. The departure should feel as unremarkable as walking to check the letterbox. For dogs with more severe anxiety, providing a long-lasting food-based activity, a filled frozen food toy, a lick mat, a substantial chew, immediately before departure gives the dog's brain a positive occupation at exactly the moment they would otherwise begin escalating. Research has found that dogs given food-based enrichment at departure showed significantly lower stress indicators in the early period following departure compared to dogs with no departure enrichment. Fifth, the actual fix: systematic desensitization. Systematic desensitization is the only evidence-based treatment for separation anxiety that produces lasting change. Everything else addresses the symptoms. Desensitization changes the underlying anxiety response. The principle is straightforward. You expose the dog to progressively longer absences while consistently staying below the threshold where anxiety is triggered. You are not teaching the dog to cope with panic. You are preventing the panic from occurring while building a new association. Absence does not equal abandonment. Begin by identifying your dog's threshold, the length of absence they can tolerate without any anxiety-related behavior. For severely affected dogs, this threshold may be measured in seconds rather than minutes. That is your starting point. Begin at well below threshold. If your dog's threshold is 30 seconds, begin with 15-second departures. Leave calmly, wait 15 seconds, return before any distress occurs. Return quietly without celebration or extended greeting. Repeat several times. That is a session. 2 to 3 sessions per day. The critical rule is absolute. Never exceed the threshold. If at any point a session produces anxiety behavior, whining, barking, scratching, excessive panting, the duration was too long. Return to a shorter duration in the next session. Progress is built incrementally. 15 seconds to 30. 30 to 60. 60 to 3 minutes. 3 to 5. Each increment requires multiple successful sessions at the previous duration before moving forward. Successful means no anxiety behavior for the full duration, consistently, not occasionally. Research into this protocol has found that dogs treated with a strict subthreshold systematic desensitization approach showed highly significant reductions in separation-related behaviors over 8 to 16 weeks of consistent work. The protocol requires patience. The results are lasting. Sixth, managing real absences while you train. Here is the practical problem most guides ignore entirely. You cannot be home practicing 15-second departures every day of your life. You have obligations. And every full unmanaged absence that occurs during training is a setback, because during that absence the dog experiences the full panic response that desensitization is specifically designed to prevent. While in the early stages of desensitization, all absences that exceed your dog's current threshold need to be managed through other means. A dog sitter. Doggy daycare. A family member who can be present. The dog should not experience an unmanaged full-length absence during the training period. This is the most difficult practical component of the protocol for most owners. It is also one of the most important. A dog experiencing a full panic episode once a week while being desensitized once a day is not making net progress. The panic experience reinforces the anxiety faster than daily training sessions can undo it. Management of real-world absences is not supplementary. It is the scaffolding that allows the training to function. Seventh, when medication is not optional. This is the topic most owners avoid, and avoiding it is costing their dogs months of unnecessary suffering. Severe separation anxiety involves genuine neurochemical dysregulation, chronically elevated stress hormones, disrupted neurotransmitter signaling, an autonomic nervous system that has become stuck in a state of high alert. Attempting to train a dog out of that neurochemical state without addressing the underlying biology is like asking someone to stop a panic attack through willpower alone. Veterinary behaviorists have access to several medication protocols with strong evidence bases for separation anxiety in dogs. These medications do not sedate the dog or alter their personality. They reduce baseline anxiety enough for the dog's brain to become available for learning, creating the neurological conditions under which desensitization can actually work. Research has found that dogs treated with medication in combination with a behavior modification protocol showed significantly faster and more complete resolution of separation anxiety compared to dogs treated with behavior modification alone. Medication accelerates the training. It is not a substitute for it. But for severely affected dogs, attempting the behavioral protocol without addressing the underlying neurochemistry is building on fundamentally unstable ground. If your dog is injuring themselves, destroying structural elements of the home, or showing severe physical symptoms during absences, contact a veterinary behaviorist or ask your primary vet for a referral. There is no virtue in managing a medical condition without appropriate medical support when that support would meaningfully reduce suffering. Your dog did not develop separation anxiety because you failed them. They developed it because their brain learned, through some combination of genetics, early experience, and attachment history, that your absence was the most threatening thing in their world. That belief was not chosen consciously. And it can be gradually unchosen through the right protocol, applied with the right patience, supported by the right management and the right professional guidance when needed. Pre-departure cue work to remove the early warning system. A calm departure protocol that stops confirming the dog's fear. Systematic desensitization that rebuilds the underlying association between your absence and safety. Management of real-world absences that protects the progress being made. And medication when the biology requires it. Together, these do not just manage separation anxiety. They resolve it. The dog waiting at your door has been telling you something every single day. They are not bad. They are not disobedient. They are afraid of losing you. In the deepest, most biological way their brain knows how to be afraid of anything. And now you know how to answer that fear with something better than punishment. Subscribe to Raffaloo. Remy will be calm when you get back. We promise. Paw prints.